Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging straight into one chapter, but wow, what a chapter, Joshua 24.
Yeah.
We're going to explore this incredibly powerful scene near the end of Joshua's life. It's just packed with history, choice, challenge.
Definitely.
Joshua gets everyone together, all the tribes of Israel, their leaders, elders, judges, officials. They're all there at Shechem, and the text says they're presenting themselves before God.
hmm
It just feels like such a defining moment, like a summing up, maybe a turning point.
It absolutely is. I mean, this assembly at Shechem, that location is strategically chosen, very symbolic. Joshua's old, right?
Right.
And this is really his chance to consolidate everything that's happened, remind the people who they are because of this shared history, and, well, demand a pretty clear decision about their future. It's not just a, simple farewell speech.
No.
It's a high-stakes challenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's dig into the history lesson Joshua gives. He's speaking, it says, on behalf of the Lord, the God of Israel. And he starts way, way back. He says, long ago, your forefathers, including Terah, the father of Abraham and Nahor, lived beyond the river and worshipped other gods. That detail right there, ancestors worshiping other gods.
That's a pretty significant place to start, isn't it?
Oh, it's crucial. Yeah. The text isn't shy about it at all. It states plainly their origins weren't, exclusively devoted to the Lord. They came from beyond the river.
Euphrates, probably.
Often understood that
Yeah.
way, yeah. Mesopotamia, where polytheism was just the norm. So by starting there, Joshua immediately contrasts where they began with the relationship they're being called into now. It really highlights the journey.
Right. Okay, so from that background, God takes Abraham, leads him through Canaan, gives him descendants. Isaac gets a specific mention.
And through Isaac, of course, you get Jacob and Esau. Esau's line gets the hill country of Seir, sort of establishing another branch, while Jacob and his sons, well, they're the ones who end up going down into Egypt.
Oh, okay.
And that whole narrative path, that sets up the big one, the defining event that shapes the collective memory Joshua's really tapping into here, which is, the Egyptian experience.
Yeah.
Moses and Aaron are sent. The text says the Egyptians are afflicted, and Israel is brought out.
The Exodus. It's presented as God's decisive act, deliverance from slavery. And it includes that super dramatic moment at the Red Sea where the Egyptians are chasing them.
Right.
Joshua reminds them, God put darkness between them, brought the sea crashing down on the Egyptians, covered them up. But what really stands out is that direct address. You saw with your own eyes what I did to the Egyptians.
Yeah, why that phrasing? You saw it.
Well, I think, seeing is believing. Or maybe it just makes the event totally undeniable. It wasn't just some story they heard. It was something they, or at least their parents' generation, witnessed firsthand.
Ah, okay. Grounds it. Makes it personal, collective memory.
Exactly. It makes it an undeniable shared historical fact for the people standing right there, listening to him. And after that witnessed deliverance, they live in the desert for a long time.
Yeah, not exactly a quick trip to the promised land, was it? A big chunk of time wandering.
A long time. Yeah, an era formation, maybe testing, learning dependence, before they finally get to the area east of the Jordan River.
Where they encounter the Amorites. Okay.
Right.
The Amorites fight them, but Joshua recounts that God gives the Amorites into Israel's hands. They're destroyed, and Israel takes their land. A key victory before crossing the river itself.
Yeah, it established their presence there, and is another demonstration, from the text's viewpoint, of God fighting for them.
And then there's that really weird bit with Balak, the king of Moab, hiring Balaam, the prophet, to curse Israel.
Such a strange story.
Yeah.
It's a totally different kind of threat, right? Not military, but like a spiritual attack using a hired gun prophet.
Right.
Balak sends for Balaam specifically to curse them. But Joshua states it really clearly. God would not listen to Balaam. Instead, Balaam ends up blessing them again and again.
How backfired.
Completely. It's presented as another example of divine protection, turning this intended curse into a blessing. And again, it happened without Israel even lifting a sword.
Which, finally brings them to the Jordan River and into Canaan itself. They arrive at Jericho. The citizens fight them. But it wasn't just Jericho, was it? Joshua lists this whole coalition. Amorites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hittites, Girgashites, Hivites, Jebusites.
It's a formidable list. I mean, these are the established peoples of the land. The challenge of taking possession was clearly significant.
But here's where we get that detail that always jumps out at me. Joshua says God sent the hornet ahead of you, which drove them out before you also the two Amorite kings. You did not do it with your own sword and bow. The hornet, what is that about? It's not exactly standard military tactics.
It's definitely one of the most debated bits in the chapter. I mean, some take it literally like an actual swarm of hornets causing chaos, maybe disease.
Wow.
Others see it more metaphorically. Maybe God sent something else ahead. Panic, pestilence, maybe even like Egyptian political influence weakening certain groups before Israel even got there. There are different theories. But whatever the exact interpretation, the point the text is making seems pretty clear. The victory, or at least clearing the path, wasn't just about Israel's army. Joshua says it straight up. You did not do it with your own sword and bow.
Right.
It attributes the success to God stepping in, using unexpected means, like hornets.
It really hammers home that perspective that God was the main actor in their story, using everything from, parting seas to sending insects.
Precisely. That's the narrative thrust.
And the result of all this, from Mesopotamia through Egypt, the desert, the battles, Joshua sums it all up. So I gave you a land on which you did not toil and cities you did not build, and you live in them and eat from vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. Just imagine that.
Yeah.
Inheriting the land, the houses, the farms, all ready to go without doing the backbreaking work yourself.
It's presented as the absolute peak of God's actions for them. This generous, unearned gift. Rest, provision, a land flowing with milk and honey that they just stepped into, prepared for them. It really reinforces the idea that getting the land was fundamentally an act of divine grace, not just conquest by their own strength.
Okay. So, after laying out this incredible, long, dramatic history, starting with idol-worshipping ancestors, ending with inheriting a land they didn't earn, Joshua pivots. He shifts from talking about what God did to demanding what the people must do.
Yes, this is the absolute crux, the critical transition point. Looking back at history, now looking forward to responsibility, allegiance.
He gives them a really direct command. Now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. And then he ties it right back to the history he just told. Throw away the gods your forefathers worshiped beyond the river and in Egypt and serve the Lord.
Yeah.
He's basically saying you can't cling to bits of the past and claim to serve the God who brought you out of all that.
It's a call for exclusive, totally undivided allegiance. He's reminding them where they came from and implicitly, acknowledging the temptation to hang on to familiar old ways or maybe stuff they picked up in Egypt.
But then comes the moment of truth, the core challenge of the whole chapter. Joshua says, "But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve."
He lays it out there. A stark, binary choice. And what are the options he gives?
It's either
the gods their ancestors served beyond the river, those ancient idols from their distant past, or the gods of the Amorites, the people whose land they're living in now, the idols of their immediate present surroundings.
past idols versus present idols, both set up against serving the Lord. No third way offered here.
Exactly. It really highlights that constant tension of allegiance, doesn't it? Whether you're looking backward to old habits or being tempted by the culture right around you, and the choice is framed as fundamental and urgent, choose for yourselves this day.
And right smack in the middle of presenting that choice, Joshua throws down his own personal commitment. A really powerful declaration. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord.
Puts his stake firmly in the ground. And it's more than just saying what he plans to do. It's a public declaration for his whole family, setting a clear example, maybe hoping to sway the crowd by showing where he believes true commitment lies.
So the people respond, and their first reaction sounds, well, pretty enthusiastic. They declare, "Far be it from us to forsake the Lord to serve other gods." They sound totally ready to commit.
And they immediately kind of echo Joshua's structure, don't they? They give their own highlight reel, framing it as the reason for their commitment.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They remind themselves in Joshua, hey, it was the Lord who brought us up from Egypt, did the great signs, protected us, drove out the nations.
Right. And based on all that history, their conclusion is firm. We too will serve the Lord because he is our God. Sounds like it's settled. Choice made. Done deal.
And here's where the chapter takes such a surprising twist. It's one of the most debated parts. Joshua doesn't just say, great, glad to hear it.
No.
No. Instead, he says to the people, you are not able to serve the Lord.
Wait, what? After they just said yes? After they just listed all the reasons why they should serve him, why on earth would he say they're not able? That feels like a total curveball. Talk about deflating their commitment.
It is a curveball, and I think it's meant to be challenging.
Yeah.
He immediately explains why he says it. He is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your rebellion and your sins.
Okay.
So he's not necessarily saying they're like physically incapable or inherently bad, but he's stressing the incredibly high standard required to truly serve this God. He's highlighting the serious, demanding nature of a relationship with a perfectly holy and exclusive, that's the jealous part, God,
Right.
and the grave consequences of failing to live up to that standard. That sin and rebellion won't just be brushed aside.
It's still like he's holding up a mirror and saying, okay, you just said yes, but do you really get the weight of this? Are you truly ready for what this God demands and what happens if you mess up?
Exactly that. He's forcing them to confront the reality of serving this specific God. Maybe implicitly contrasting it with how easy it might seem to serve idols that don't demand holiness.
Okay.
And then he explicitly warns them about the stakes. If you forsake the Lord and serve foreign gods, he will turn and bring disaster on you and make an end of you after he has been good to you. The same divine power that saved them will judge them if they turn away.
That's a heavy warning. But the people, they don't back down, do they? Their second response is simpler, but maybe even more resolute. No, we will serve the Lord.
They double down. Yeah. They seem to reaffirm their choice, maybe sobered up a bit by Joshua's challenge, and Joshua keeps pressing them to own it.
He does. He says, you are witnesses against yourselves that you have chosen to serve the Lord. And the people confirm again, yes, we are witnesses. They're explicitly taking accountability for the choice they just made.
Right. And this leads to another really fascinating moment, something that speaks to just how complex commitment really is. Even after they've declared their choice, affirmed it under challenge, and accepted accountability, Joshua gives another instruction.
Why is it?
He says, now then, throw away the foreign gods that are among you and yield your hearts to the Lord, the God of Israel.
Wait a second. Throw away the foreign gods that are among you. This is after they just said they'd serve the Lord and ditch the old gods. This implies, wow, that even at this very moment of commitment, idols, or at least the symbols of other loyalties, were still physically present among the people right there.
That's a critical insight, I think. It suggests that making the choice, saying the words, isn't necessarily the end of the struggle. It might just be the beginning.
Yeah.
The text reveals that even as they stood there declaring allegiance, the physical stuff, the symbolic leftovers of their past, or the surrounding culture's worship, it was still mixed in with them. Real commitment requires ongoing action, actively getting rid of those old things, and fully yielding their hearts to the Lord. It just highlights that gap between saying something and actually living it, between the verbal declaration and the practical reality.
It adds a whole layer of complexity to just choosing, doesn't it? It wasn't just a mental decision. It demanded immediate, tangible action and like an internal turning.
Precisely. And the people respond to this, the call for practical action and heartfelt commitment. They say, we will serve the Lord our God and obey him. They're confirming both the allegiance and the intent to follow through, to obey.
Okay, so to make all this official, everything that happened that day, Joshua made a covenant for the people right there at Shechem, drew up specific decrees and laws. So this wasn't just an emotional moment. It was being formally embedded into their, legal and social fabric.
Yeah, it translated that spiritual commitment into practical, actionable terms. Rules for daily life, community organization, all tied to this covenant.
And then he created this physical, tangible reminder of this huge day. He wrote everything down in the book of the law of God, sure, but he also took a massive stone and set it up right there, under the oak, near the holy place of the Lord.
A monument, a physical marker in the landscape to memorialize this spiritual and legal agreement they just made.
And the purpose of this stone, it's spelled out, and it's striking. Joshua tells them, this stone will be a witness against us. It has heard all the words the Lord has said to us. It will be a witness against you if you are untrue to your God. A stone that heard everything.
Yeah.
It's like personified as this silent, enduring witness.
It serves as a physical embodiment of the covenant and the accountability that comes with it. It grounds this abstract agreement in something totally concrete, permanent, something they'd see every single day, a constant, quiet reminder of the promises they made and the potential consequences if they broke them.
Wow. So after this incredibly intense, significant day history lesson, demanded choice, commitment made, challenged, reaffirmed, sealed with a covenant and a witness stone, Joshua sent the people away, each to their own inheritance in the land they'd been given.
Right. The chapter then kind of quickly wraps up by covering the passing of the torch, really marking the end of that whole era shaped by Joshua's leadership. Joshua, son of Nun, dies at 110, gets buried.
And the text makes a point of noting that Israel did actually serve the Lord throughout Joshua's lifetime and also through the lifetime of the elders who outlived him, the ones who had personally experienced all those powerful acts of God that Joshua had just recounted.
Yeah, that detail suggests the commitment made at Shechem, it largely held true, at least for that generation, for those who had, seen the history firsthand.
The chapter also throws in another detail connecting back to their deep past: the bones of Joseph. Remember, they carried his bones all the way from Egypt.
Yes.
They're finally buried right there at Shechem, in the plot of land Jacob had bought centuries before.
It's such a poignant moment, isn't it? Bringing that long, long journey from Egypt to a symbolic close right at the spot where this crucial covenant was reaffirmed. It links the promises to the patriarchs, the Exodus event, and finally possessing the land. It all comes together there.
Yeah.
And then finally, Eleazar, son of Aaron, the high priest, he also dies and is buried, marking the end of the priestly leadership from that foundational generation too.
So we really see this whole arc in just one chapter, starting with ancestors serving other gods, moving through this long, miraculous, often really tough history of deliverance and provision, where God is clearly the main actor, leading to this critical, demanding moment of choice. Who will you serve? Then a commitment is made, it's challenged, it's reaffirmed, and finally it's formalized with a covenant, with laws, and with this silent stone witness.
It's just such a powerful picture of the journey of allegiance, really.
Yeah.
It shows that, identifying who you were, like idol worshippers, acknowledging what was done for you, divine deliverance, the gift of the land, leads directly to the imperative of making a clear choice about who you will serve now.
Right.
But it also reveals the immediate and ongoing challenge of actually living up to that choice. Remember the foreign gods still being among them, even as they're making the promise.
Yeah, that detail is crucial.
It shows it's a struggle, not just a one-time declaration, but requires ongoing purification, ongoing heartfelt dedication.
This deep dive into Joshua 24, it really underscores the weight and maybe the messiness, the complexity of commitment. It's not just a single moment, it's a process, an ongoing thing. So what does this all mean for you listening? Consider that stone witness Joshua set up. He said it heard everything, and it would stand as a witness if they were untrue. It just stood there, a physical thing tied to a spiritual promise. In our world, which is just full of competing calls for our attention, our time, our energy, our loyalty, the things we choose to serve every day, consciously or not, what witnesses, tangible or intangible, might exist for the choices you're making right now, choices about what truly holds your heart, your allegiance. What are those silent reminders, maybe, of the commitments you've made, or perhaps the choices you still need to make?